What's going on, everybody? It is Master Crafted, Lane and Phil, your favorite two people, and we had a real fun weekend up here in Laramie. Phil was kind enough to make the drive for a two-headed giant tournament I was putting on, and then we got in some games on Sunday as well. It was a real fun time. Always glad when we can finally be in the same area code. Phil, how was your weekend?
I love coming up to Wyoming. We had a blast. We went out, had a couple beers, saw you sing some karaoke. For those that are wondering, yes, Lane loves his country karaoke. So if you ever get the chance when you come up to Wyoming, make sure you just take him out and he'll serenade you all night. So it was good. I was able to play my Death Guard list that I'm taking down to Austin for some final reps into new T-Sons, which was super valuable, as well as into Orcs for Ryan. And then I had a good time playing some two-headed giant, just running my Custodes, running a bunch of Dreadnoughts, which was a blast. And then, we're going to talk to you about our first game, T-Sons into Death Guard, and our first impressions of that game and the matchup overall. Because Lane is very new to T-Sons, and he's just starting off with it. So we'll kind of talk through how we felt about the matchup as a whole. That way you can be prepared when you are on either side of that matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go ahead and get started. I'll run through my list real quick. For characters, I had Ahriman, who gives me the redeploy. He was attached to 5 rubrics. I had 3 Infernal Masters. One had the Arcane Vortex for extra strength and damage. He was attached to a 10-man of rubrics. A 5-man was attached to a regular Infernal Master, and then an additional was an Infernal Master with the crystal to go up, down, and he had 5 rubrics with him. And then the last but not least, I had one Sorcerer who had a 5-man with bolters as well to try them out, really try to take advantage of the lethal hits and the full rerolls from the ritual. And then besides that, I had one Chaos Rhino for 2 of those 5-mans to go into. I had 2 Mutalith Vortex Beasts. I had a Sekitar Robot, a unit of 6, and then 2 units of 3 for the Fatecaster Bow Zangors, and then 2 units of regular Zangors, and that was run in Grand Coven. Phil, what were you taking for your games this weekend?
Yeah, so I was running Death Guard Champions of Contagion. I know it's not the most popular detachment right now, but I don't know why. I really enjoy running it. It matches my playstyle really well, which is that like mid-board brawler type. Like my Custodes, my Space Marines honestly are not like that, but I feel like I run my Custodes relatively well. And my GSC is definitely that mid-board brawler type as well, except for the fact that they're made of tissue paper. So I fight you and then I die, but I come back. So running Champions of Contagion, I have no enhancements. It's all just straight up raw data sheets, 2,000 points. Biologist Putrefier, Foul Blightspawn, Malignant Plaguecaster, Lord of Poxes, Lord of Contagion, Lord of Virulence, and a Demon Prince on foot. So the 2x Plague Marine characters are in a 10-man and a 7-man. The 10-man has the Foul Blightspawn and the Biologist Putrefier, usually. And the Malignant Plaguecaster and the Lord of Poxes are in the other. I'm running a Chaos Spawn, 1 Death Guard Rhino, 3x Fetid Blow Drones with heavy blight launchers, and 2 malignant or Mephitic Blight Haulers. So 3 Fetid Blow Drones with heavy blight launchers, 2 Mephitic Blight Haulers. All those Death Guard names will get you tripped up and turned around, but that is 2,000 points on the nose. It is Champions of Contagion, and it is mighty lethal, my friends.
Yes, it can put the damage down range, and it does not care, especially in Champions, being able to do your crit 5 stratagem. You don't care that Mutaliths have a 5-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain when you're just forcing that many saves. Yeah, it's impressive. I still have not really cracked how to deal with Death Guard in the best possible way, because everything in there seems pretty gross. And, maybe it'll feel better after heavy blight launchers go up to 120 where they should be, and you maybe have a few less pieces in that army. Maybe it'll feel a little better, but we can save that rant for another time. I'm sure we've probably talked quite a bit about Death Guard in the current meta, and that's why Phil here is taking them down to Texas to hopefully go show some nerds how it's done and, maybe win a GT. I think that'll be pretty exciting.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're all rooting for you. To talk about our game, we tried to take some pictures and stuff, but just as it was flowing, we were just having fun and hanging out. And we just, instead of giving you a disjointed couple pictures here and there. We're just going to kind of talk through our impressions of our armies and kind of how the game went and takeaways we had. I know I personally had a ton, being only my third game with Thousand Sons. There was a lot of things that I was like, I don't really know if that's optimized. Like, it's still okay. It just, I don't know if it's the best way to run some stuff. Phil, I mean, you're taking this down to Texas. Was there any things you were like, man, I still could maybe tweak that?
The thing that I'm running into the issues with the most is that 7-man with the Lord of Poxes and the caster, that I really want 2 5-mans there and a character in each one. But there is a benefit for that being a 7-man with 2 characters. It means I have access to Fights First for that unit, because the strat for Fights First in Champions of Contagion, you need 2 characters attached to the unit. Now, I could run a 5-man and have those 2 characters, but I had the points left over, so bumped it up to a 7. Ideally, I'm still on the fence. I've run the 2 5-man variation with a character in each, and I've also run the 7-man now. There are matchups that having that other unit of Fights First is pretty important. At least just even as a threat, it's pretty terrifying for some armies. I'm happy with it both ways. So I'm taking the 7-man down there. We will give it a good run overall. The map we were on, that Lane and I were playing, we were on WTC layout. We were doing Purge the Foe and Hammer and Anvil. So a little bit of a different layout for Lane. We don't do WTC very often up here in Colorado. So it was definitely interesting, because the game changes significantly when you have these terrain setups that are different than the GW ones.
Yeah, there is a lot smaller shooting lanes. There is way more staging areas. It is a much more tradey game. It does feel like MSU does seem like it's very strong, just being able to keep trading back and forth and hopefully just having more material at the end, especially with the new mission pack where challenger cards are a problem, we might say. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. We've talked a little about it, but yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's just we're not here to rant on about the chapter approved missions. I apologize. As far as the game goes, I felt like it was very interesting. Having played T-Sons in the Index version, I played way more Castle-y. I didn't even have Magnus in my list, but just in general, that just felt more of how I need to play. I need to be playing to put stuff on objectives and then have rubrics go clear whatever you sent out. And I don't think that's actually how you play the new Thousand Sons. I feel like I need to be much more aggressive. I just need to say, okay, cool, that's in range. I can go deal with it. I'm going to go do that, with not just every time, but in general, with some restraint, just trying to really be more aggressive and leverage the damage. It is a very lethal army. I think it's one of the few things that's actually up there with Death Guard in terms of lethality is the new Thousand Sons. And yeah, so it was trying to, I needed to be more of the aggressor and just go, okay, that is a problem. I'm going to go try to delete it. And that is my mission this turn, kind of as the game went, and just trying to pick one thing that I'm like able to knock out, instead of just the way the game ended up going is I ended up having to be fairly reactive and playing on the back foot. And that didn't work. That doesn't work in Death Guard, I think, generally. Yeah. You got to, you are very good with your army. How was it getting to play into T-Sons? Was there any things that stood out to you of like, that was problematic, that wasn't, things that you would say just having played into T-Sons are maybe something to take more of or maybe not take at all?
Yeah, one of the biggest problems with T-Sons is their move in the shooting phase. And I knew it was going to be a problem going into the game, because when you can do that, it means that I cannot overwatch you. If you start out of line of sight and then you move into a place where you can see me and I can't see you. I have a lot of anti-infantry flamers. I have a lot of rerolls on wounds with like the Lord of Virulence and, all this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I could do all of these things, but it doesn't matter if you stay out of line of sight or behind a piece of terrain or whatever the case is, and then you do your move in the shooting phase and I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do to react. So I knew that was going to be a problem. You don't want combat as much as I want combat. I would say even at all. So in terms of how you were going to trade off objectives, that was going to be a challenge for you. You were going to have to use the Vortex Beast probably, because if you try to charge Rubric Marines into my Plague Marines that are behind a wall, it's going to be an issue, because my Plague Marines are going to kill you easily. And that is definitely not something that the trade works out well. So these layouts are interesting for Thousand Sons, because there is so many places for me to hide. It's just when I come out, I have to be able to, as Lane was saying, I have to be able to trade multiple times. And that's why those heavy blight drones are so important, because they allow me to go out and kill things without actually having to go trade an asset for that. So there are armies that can combat up and do those things, but not everyone can do that. And it can be incredibly impactful to just have something that can go out there, point at it and say, I want that thing dead, and I also don't want to give up a unit on that objective to have that thing dead.
Yeah, that I felt like the drones are just so problematic. That I think that's still just one of the best parts of Death Guard right now. Drones, for their points, are so tough and they kill the things they shoot at very well. Yeah, it's just good. The takeaways I kind of had from it. This was my first two games playing Grand Coven this weekend, and I felt like I really needed things that would be able to leverage having +1 to wound or dev wounds. That really I can just put them into the doctrine of the detachment and really just send it out, and it will definitely clear stuff. It'll do its job, and then if it dies, that's okay. It is just nuked 2 things because those buffs help so much with the damage output. And I think that's one of the things I'm really looking towards. I've been tempted to put Magnus back in. I do think he's a little pricey, but in terms of what is available to us to have psychic wounds, psychic weapons that can get the +1 to wound, get the dev wounds, and all of those buffs, he's one of the best at it. And if you're kind of just doing a go turn or something like that, having to deal with Magnus means the rest of your rubrics and all that stuff might last another round. So I'm kind of tempted with that. I want to try it out. The other thing is the Winged Demon Prince. I think that is another solid option that I'm going to look at including and putting the Arcane Vortex on that. That means it now has basically 9 shots of heavy bolter profile with sustained hits. He can do the drop in and also do sustained hits D3 for that turn. And if you mark for rerolls, I mean, he pretty much can clear a lot of chaff just with his shooting. And then if you do need him to, once he's on the board and you can give him, +1 to wound, he has dev wounds baked into his melee profile, and he can just go ahead, run in there with that enhancement. He has flat damage 4, and I don't know if you know what death shrouds are running right now, but they're 4 wounds, and being able to kill them efficiently with anything is a godsend. So that's something that I'm like, okay, that's a nice option. And then we got Space Wolves around the corner, and I'm pretty sure 9 Thunderwolf Cavalry is going to be like a bare minimum for almost every damn list we see. So just having access to flat 4 damage, I don't know. It seems pretty spicy to me. So I think I want to try that out. And he's just a missile. 170 points is basically the same as what you pay for 5 rubrics and a character. And I think you just get way more value out of spending 1 CP, put them in a doctrine, and they can just go absolutely nuke 2 different units fairly consistently. And it also has it has reroll 1s to hit and to wound against character units innately, which another thing that comes up fairly common, especially against Death Guard, as well as if it's a Psyker unit, you get full hit and wound rerolls. So can't complain about that. Just a very solid thing. That's the big change. I think almost every one of my Coven lists is going to include him, whether that's where the enhancement ends or not.
Yeah, no, those are some really solid thoughts. We talked about it during the game and after the game. I definitely feel like those little missile units, like 5-man with a sorcerer or a 5-man with, what's the other name of the character?
The Infernal Master.
Infernal Master. So like a 5-man with an Infernal Master, or a 5-man with a sorcerer, just like a little missile unit that just goes out, trades really well, like trades up with the +1 to wound and does those things. And then, okay, it died. I don't care nearly as much. And it's nice that the character has grenade, even though the unit does not. So it does give that extra amount of lethality that rubrics can sometimes miss into higher toughness targets.
Yeah. I think I at least want to try it. I think even without the enhancement, it's very good. I think it's a decent option. And being able to have solid damage output, which is one of the best parts of T-Sons, I'm finding out that's been the hardest thing for me, is trying to really know the line, what the math is on a new army of what can I kill with this, and knowing if I need the +1 to wound, if I need the devs, if I need some rerolls somewhere. That is definitely going to take some getting used to, but they felt great. I do think T-Sons are a strong army for sure. It's always just not fun to play into Death Guard. But unless it's Phil. I enjoy playing Phil. I also got to play Will this weekend. It's not fun to play the army. It's fun to play the people. Focus on that. Don't get too salty. That Death Guard is really good right now.
Yeah, they're a problem. I will agree with the sense that heavy blight launchers are one of the main issues, right? They need to go up in points. That's fine. Totally agree. Death Shroud Terminators now no longer being able to 6-inch rapid ingress deep strike. That's good that that's gone. They're still a problem. They're not nearly as lethal without the Lord of Contagion in combat. I mean, they can kill stuff still perfectly fine, but when the Lord of Contagion gives them Lance and Sustained, and then they already have lethal built in, And then like I've done it very rarely. It's I think only happened once or twice where I've paid the 2 CP or 1 CP with the reduction from the Demon Prince to full hit and wound rerolls. Because I put like the singular Lord of Contagion into something, and then I put like the 3 Death Shroud into something else, and they mince everything. There is nothing that they have not killed because they're just so dang strong. I like the Lord of Virulence in there, especially for the heavy blight launchers. It's kind of important. But overall, if you are talking about like playing into Death Guard, there's a lot of ways that you can. It's just we do have a data sheet advantage. We do have a points advantage. You do have to find tools in your army like Thousand Sons where you can negate the Overwatch, right? And you can move in the shooting phase, or, you know, you can choose angles or pick trades that are actually beneficial to you because we do have a lot of things, but we want to be using those things. So if we're stuck doing actions with like heavy blight launcher drones, that doesn't feel nearly as good as using them for combat. But we have some really good matchups too. Like Knights are a great matchup. Chaos Knights are a great matchup. Any combat army that doesn't have access to -1 damage, and even then the -1 damage isn't that scary because I'm gonna fight first, and I have a lot of attacks, and like even with the -1 damage, I'm gonna hurt you real bad. World Eaters is gonna be a little tough. Like that's one thing I'm concerned about this weekend, specifically Demonkin. And I've played into Zerker Warband. It doesn't concern me as much as Demon King does because Demon King, that 9-inch Bloodletter bomb is ridiculous. It is so good. And that one strat alone it stresses me out because like you're constantly aware of anything that dies. It's just Bloodletters could pop up and charge you, which is not great.
Yeah, it is. I do think it is probably maybe the toughest detachment to play, but the skill cap in that detachment of Demonkin is just, I mean, whatever you can think of doing with that 9-inch, drop some freaking berserkers in, or not berserkers. Corn. What are they? Bloodletters. Jesus. Sorry. Yeah, you can just drop some bloodletters in, and yeah, they can be very problematic. They can totally ruin plans to overwatch actual threats. You know, things like that. Even just being like, well, either you overwatch them or you don't overwatch this 6 man of 8 bound. Suck it. You know, it's very like that's very simple use, and it's such a problem still. So yeah, I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, you don't run into that this weekend. And you know, I'm just so excited. Phil Schwan gonna be coming back with the cup back from Dallas or Austin. Yeah. GT winner. This guy right over here calling it.
I appreciate it. Well, we'll do our very best. I know the community down there is fantastic. We have a few guys in the Colorado area that are from there, so we're all kind of traveling down there together. There's I think 3 of us going down to Texas. Brett, one of our 40K Fight Club team members, he's flying down with me. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to running Death Guards. Kind of trying to, you know, prove myself and play some good 40K and end the weekend with more people and more friends. Spread the word about Mastercrafted. I'm looking to do that as well.
Yeah, you do that down there with 40K players. I've got a work event for a grand opening for our real estate company. So I'm going to spread the good word of Mastercrafted to all these people who have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But you know what? We're both going to be doing our best. And Phil, you know, best of luck this weekend, buddy. You're gonna crush it. And yeah, dude, I can't wait to hear how it goes.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, well, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We just wanted to go over some post-game thoughts about our game against each other with T-Sons and Death Guard. And thank you all for tuning in. We will have more videos coming out talking about some of their games. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and do not forget that victory isn't given, it is forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted. We'll see y'all next time.